Hey, I'm Andy from the Ultimate Trivia Podcast.
The Ultimate Trivia Podcast.
Our show is pretty simple. 5 lifelong friends competing on a single topic to see who gets bragging rights. Each episode, Nick, Scott, Brian, Kelly, and I battle through 10 questions on movies, music, science, history, sports, whatever we decide to throw in the blender for that week. Every episode stands on its own, so you can jump in wherever your curiosity takes you. And we don't just stop at right or wrong. We get into the backstory, the origins, the weird facts, and the stuff that has you saying, how did I not know that already? So download an episode, play along, keep score, and tell us how you do. See if you can beat the crew on the Ultimate Trivia Podcast.
I will have you know that in Beverly Hills, California, one afternoon, I got a standing ovation from the nearby construction workers because I could parallel park better than anybody on the street.
Welcome to Story and Craft. Now, here's your host, Mark Preston.
Okay, here we go. Back again. Another episode of Story and Craft. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Mark. If you haven't been here before, I do welcome you to the show. If you have been here before, well, thanks for stopping back by. Today, having a great conversation with actor, comedian, and former model Rosalee Mayeux. She has a really interesting story, kind of a really interesting life arc that has taken her kind of all over the place. And it was a great conversation. And you can check out her latest comedy special. It is called Model Mom. It is kind of everywhere. You know, Apple, YouTube, I think. It is. Just do a search for Model Mom. You'll find it. And a quick reminder, jump on over to storyandcraftpod.com. All the stuff you could possibly want to know about the show, it is all right there. And don't forget to follow and like Story and Craft on your podcast app. It's greatly appreciated. Okay, so let's go ahead and get after it. Today is Rosalee Mayeux Day, right here on Story and Craft.
What's up, Monday Island?
Things are going great down here. You're in you're in LA, right?
I am in LA. I am.
It's toward the end of your day here today, huh?
Yeah. And you too?
You know, after this, it's a trip to the grocery and cooking for the youngin, the 20-year-old. Actually, I'm going to put her to work tonight. You know, I'm going to have her do. I'm going to have her cook for me. You know, she does she's really good at it too. So
never get sick and then leave the kids in charge of feeding you. We'll have to come get you, Mark. You'll die. They seem like they could do these things, but nope, not really.
No, I will say this. I raised my kids not to be chicken nugget kids. I wanted them to, They shopped with me, they cooked, they have the skills, and then they come up with good ideas. I'm just kind of like, I've had a long day. I'm like, I'm going to go and hand this over to her. I don't care if it's something fancy or she decides to make frozen corn dogs. Who knows? It could be anything, but I just saw, I caught, I think, snippets of a couple of your shows, and I noticed that you were from Louisiana, but I didn't catch where in Louisiana you were from.
I'm from Southwest Louisiana in Rain, which is between Lafayette and Crowley on the I-10.
I logged, I did my tour of duty in Metairie in New Orleans for a little over 20 years, and my ex-wife's from there.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, I enjoyed it to a degree. It's just one of those things that I've used this quote before. My aunt gave this to me, rest her soul, before I moved to New Orleans in 98. And she said she knew somebody in New Orleans had this phrase. It said they don't expect their politicians to be corrupt. They demand it. And it's just,
Now you're getting into my material.
Yeah.
We are the only state in the United States who put our governor in jail. We sent him to the penitentiary, which is a great word.
Edwin Edwards?
And then when he got out, we reelected him. So that's us.
I tell you what, there was a mayor of New Orleans. I forgot. His name is escaping me. But he was the former president of one of the cable companies, one that I always had trouble with. And then he became mayor, and then he got popped for corruption and went to jail. I was happy that there was justice served. Part of it was that they never responded to all the overcharges I got from this cable company. So that was kind of like I was vindicated, I felt, But no, that's... But
Wouldn't it be nice if we could send them to jail for bad internet service. I mean, I'm just saying, it's just an idea. Just one of my many good thoughts.
What's it like growing up in rain? I think I used to, if it's along I-10, I'm from Dallas, so we would, no, that's Pat. We would go up north in 49. I think it was 49.
You take 49 and then come on down if you wanted to. I mean, it was always a choice whether you're going to go up north to Dallas or down to Houston or San Antonio or anything like that. Galveston for vacations. That's where I was. But yeah, the I-10, when you come from Dallas, you come on down the 49 and then you cut across. And there was the joke back home was we would build 10 miles of the I-10 and then we would run out of money. And by the time we appropriated new money, the swamp had eaten the 10 miles that we had done. So it took us about 95 years to build the I-10.
When I saw your name, I was like, Mayeux. I was like, well, that's a very Louisiana thing. I wonder if she's from Louisiana. Boom, there you go. So what did your folks do down there?
Oh my gosh. Mom and Dad were too old to adopt kids by the time we came along. And so they bribed a priest for $500. It's back when you could buy children. And they got my brother. And then a few years later, they went and paid the priest some more money and got me. And we were brought from Shreveport in a little adoption home on Hope Street, which later burned down. So not too much hope there anymore, but they got us. And they did every job there was. I mean, during World War II, my dad had polio as a little kid. And so when he tried to join the Army, they would tell him, drop trout, and they would see his spindly polio legs and say, we can't take you. Mm-hmm. So he tried 3 times. He would go from station to station trying to get in to fight the war. Mom was, she headed up a series of canning factories that did all the food for the GIs. Mm-hmm. And then what Dad ended up doing was he went around to the men who were off serving. So he went to those families and gathered up, it still makes me cry, all those young boys and took reign to state football championships with 11 players in World War II. Dad, that's how he served. He went and collected boys whose dads were serving and taught them football and was their coach.
Well, so is your dad kind of a more of a service-minded kind of a guy?
Yeah, he's the one who taught me all about charity work. I mean, he would go back to town. He would bring food on Sundays. If we had too much, it would make him cry that other people were hungry. He couldn't take it. He's a big softy. I mean, and he sold cars to chickens. He did everything there was.
Well, he sold cars and chickens, or sold cars to chickens?
Well, when we were on the farm, he would raise chickens, and he would put me on street corners with little baby chicks at Easter time to sell chickens. And then later he became a used car salesman, which all the stories are true about.
Oh, I grew up in the same. My father did the same. Well, he used new cars, but all car salesmen, whether it's new or used, they're the same. They're the same DNA. So I still get PTSD going on a car lot. I remember my title was because I worked when I was old enough to drive at a Ford dealership. They gave me a title of inventory control supervisor. So my job was making sure all the cars were positioned, for the best marketing. But the salesman referred to me as lot lizard, so there was no.
You were a lot lizard. Absolutely. I know that term.
It was in Dallas. Come August, they parked the cars on the, it was a blacktop streets or whatever, road, paving, whatever. And it was crazy because the cars were they're metal. They absorb heat, and you had the blacktop. It was just so oppressive. That was like, everybody has those building character jobs. That was one of mine. And I was getting inside of like sports cars and stuff and moving them around, and had way more responsibility than probably a 16-year-old these days would be given. Considering the price of the cars I was moving. But growing up around a car dealership, did you pick up on those, call them savvy negotiation skills?
Well, let's put it this way: I wasn't afraid to walk in and buy my first car, because I had already heard it all from my dad on the phone with his customers. So when I went in as a young lady to go buy my first car, I wouldn't put up with any of the stuff. The poor salesman in California went, "Who is this girl? She's not supposed to know all this." I don't know. I just learned you do what you have to do to to earn a living. You have to put pride aside. He sold shrimp out of a truck. You know, he did anything there was. He built houses. He did construction. He did, he did it all. And to his credit, I mean, Mom was the one. They both went to college, but the war interrupted all that. So they were just the real American, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, do what you need to do, and worked hard all their lives. And it was always a big deal that they could pay their mortgage. That was a big deal.
Did you feel like you kind of jumped out into the world with a sense of independence, or you felt capable? Did you get that from them, or was it?
Oh, no. I flunked out of college and had to go.
Oh.
Well, I mean, Dad, they eventually did very well. Dad had 2 furniture stores eventually, and the mob came to him. And you come from where I come from. You know how that goes. They come knocking on your door. And they say, Mr. Lee, we would like to park some inventory in your warehouse. And Dad said, oh, that's okay. I'm all full up. I can't help you. And they came back a few months later and said, Mr. Lee, I'm afraid we must insist. And he said, no, I'm good. I just have so much I just can't help you boys out. And they came back and burned him out.
Really?
And the way you can prove it is, the warehouses were on opposite ends of town, and they both burned down at the same time. So
when did you head out of Louisiana? When did you make your way? Was your first journey off to LA, or were you where did you go?
The first thing you're supposed to do is get married because you're 19 and that's the law. And then you move to Texas, and then you get your divorce, and then you get discovered on a runway and got taken to New York, and then you lived in Paris, and then you got a contract to move to Los Angeles.
That's a very specific path, but it sounds like a lot of fun. Where'd you live in Texas when you moved? Was it just like Houston or Beaumont?
So when I got married and I was 19, we moved to Austin, where I learned how to parallel park. And I will have you know that in Beverly Hills, California, one afternoon, I got a standing ovation from the nearby construction workers because I could parallel park better than anybody on the street, my 22-foot green Cadillac. That I learned to park at the courthouse in Austin. You had to fight for a parking spot there. And so that's where I learned to really drive was Texas. And I would go from Austin to Dallas for modeling. Do you remember Kim Dawson?
Yeah, I know her right off I-35 and the
Kim Dawson Agency. So that's who took me in first.
Did you remember my grandfather, rest his soul, was in the ladies' fashion and millinery and all that. And he had something at the Dallas Apparel Mart. I don't know if you remember.
Yes, that's where her offices were not far from that. So your first jobs as a model was to see how you did on runway, you did the photography. And so there was this wonderful guy named Marlon who did all of our shots. And then
they're all black and white.
Yeah, all black and white.
Yeah,
and
which I still love.
Beautiful, beautiful. My first portfolio was a piece of art. And from there, I got seen on the runway by a kid named Stephen Schatz, who was a bright young designer who had his first showing at Barney's in New York, that was the coolest store, the it store. It's where everybody wanted their designs to end up.
How did you get introduced to the Kim Dawson Agency? Was somebody saying you should try this out, or was this always an aspiration for you?
Yeah.
Or?
No, I was just a kid married in Austin, and this is so terrible. So my husband got struck by lightning on the golf course, and I didn't do it. He's dead. I didn't do it. He's dead, but he's dead now. He didn't die then. So I stayed and took care of him for, 2 years in rehab and stuff. And one of his friends was trying to be a realtor. And he said, Rosalee, you're pretty. Come stand in front of this house. We'll sell it. And it worked. I was just in front of the house, and a house that hadn't sold in a minute was instantly sold. And he said, see, you should be doing this. And so Foxy was his wife's name, and Foxy came over and said, "You have to go to Dallas and cut that long blonde hair." And so I went. I just knocked on their door and said, "Hey."
What year are we talking about here? Because it gives me a little frame of reference.
It had to be like 76 or something like that, because
okay.
and I went back and forth while we were figuring out to separate and all that stuff. I went back and forth. And so the year I got discovered was 79.
That was high time in Dallas. There was a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool stuff going on. And that's where I got discovered. And I got taken to New York by a small agent who said, "You really don't belong with us. I'll set up an appointment with you to go meet Eileen Ford." And that was the height of the 80s. That was it. It was 12 years of...
Wasn't that kind of the precursor to the whole concept of supermodels? Because that didn't come in until like early 80s, Kathy Ireland and all.
Yeah, all that came right smack in the middle. But it was, it's a career that really some girls spark to and just love the glamour and stuff. And look, I liked staying at the Ritz in Paris. It's nice. But, if you come from the country, what I valued was every 3 months I would disappear for a month. And I would go back to Louisiana and spend a month with my mom and dad. And I would go plant, resod the front yard, or go out and, get a bunch of cloth and cook with my aunts and make a new dress. I mean, that still held more value to me than anything. So then I would go back to Paris and they would complain because you just get going and then you disappear. But, I would go to model at this, like a Givenchy or Chanel or something, and I would see the seamstresses sewing silk linings into fine linens, and I would go, I watched the ladies in Grandma's back room do that. So I was very into the, like your grandfather, the milliner side of it. I loved fabrics and brocades and velvets, and all of the, the workmanship of it to me was exquisite. And I didn't realize that these ladies back in the country, 5 miles outside of town on a rice farm, had that craft that you saw in the fashion houses in Paris. And I just loved it. I'm a very tactile artist, and so I liked all that. So the allure to me was play. It was a lot of fun to play.
Well, do you think that the foundation of modeling as a high profile thing was really coming into being right about them, but leading up to that, I don't think modeling was thought of quite as this big. It was something you could do, but it wasn't like the level of the supermodel thing. I'm just remembering, the guys I went to high school with had the Kathy Ireland poster, and like Cindy Crawford.
Kathy
and
was cool. Kathy was cool because she refused to shave her legs. These were all,
really?
When I came up, it was Cheryl Teagues that was in the magazine.
Cheryl Teagues, yes.
Remember her? And by the time I got to Europe, it had started, like you say, to change. It had started to get so rarefied. Victoria's Secret came in. And Eileen Ford wasn't in Paris. What happened was a dude by the name of Johnny Casablancas made really good friends with Eileen and Jerry. And he convinced them that he would be their European liaison. They all made friends. And it turned out he was a horrible human being. And they just like we just trusted, and it's way over there in Paris, there wasn't the level of communication. I mean, today we watch the Gulf War on the television for the first time. There wasn't this education. I was in the bowels of something called La Coupole. You know this place, Mark? In Paris, La Coupole. It's one of the most famous eateries in the world, and the tables are so tiny, seated next to these giant marble columns. It's like what a food court thinks it should look like,
Okay,
And
you'd say no more.
It's one giant restaurant, And the waiters rushed over we were 6 models sitting together. They rushed over and spoke to us in French and said, if you're American, come with us. And they took us down into the bowels of the restaurant where they had an illegal radio and were listening to Ronald Reagan getting shot.
Oh, really? Okay, that's the
Yeah.
81, right? 80,
Yeah.
81? Okay.
I don't know anymore. I don't remember anymore.
We know ballpark,
But that's what it was like. You know, we had to call our parents with coins on the weekends from a payphone on a street. So communications was not what it is today. You weren't immediately alerted if somebody was a bad guy. Eileen had no idea. I had no idea that they were all of these bad guys. It was only being there and in the industry for 12 years that I began to see things around me. And the choices that I made were so, you know, country Louisiana in comparison to what was really going on. And I didn't know, you know. And then when I came back, Eileen was very smart. She said, you will make a fortune if you just marry a cattleman and go have a nice family. And I said, Eileen, that's not going to happen. I have too much foolishness in my soul. And she said, oh, God, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'm pregnant. And she said, oh, God, are you going to keep it? And I said, well, I guess so. And she said, oh, God, now everybody's going to want one. And so we started a bunch of models. We're now parents. And I went to Carnegie Hall and started studying acting. And that's how I got my whole career, which was my next career was acting. Was
that something you did you have like a target where it's like, okay, I'm gonna stair step this thing into other things, or was it just like, what else do I want to do? And was that always something that was on your mind, like acting, that is?
I think acting was since I was a little girl and would cut cheerleading practice to go watch the 4:00 movie.
Mm-hmm.
I just, you know, and my cousins would say, but you can't sing and dance. What are you going to do? Because real acting and theater acting and English, you know, on the boards in the West End in London wasn't a part of our world. We just saw the 4:00 movie. And so when I got into it, Eileen first put me in commercials where I learned about cameras and lighting and stuff. And I actually became much more comfortable because of the modeling years in front of cameras than live audiences. To segue now into shooting a comedy special, which is called Model Mom, by the way, in honor of all my stupid years. But that's, you know, it's so different working with cameras and working with stand-up live audiences.
Oh, yeah,
It's just, and the challenges on movie sets was another thing that was so much fun to learn. You know, I thought I was headed toward being an actor, being a director, transitioning from acting into directing. Because I've always written short stories, and some of them won awards, and I wanted to direct them. But was there a plan? I don't know. I think the plan is always art. Whether you're just being a poet or a painter or a director or sewing gowns, it's all art. I don't think I could ever do anything else. I was never any good to hire as a with a real
Well, it's
job.
kind of storytelling and expression as well. You know,
Yeah.
it seems like, you know, that's kind of when you were modeling, did you find, was it all pretty much straightforward, you know, photography and, like I said, runway? I mean, was it kind of like a hodgepodge of a lot of different things, or did you
It
find
was a lot
yourself
of
in one
different
genre?
things. A lot of the girls did runway. I wasn't often selected for runway because I have a curvaceous body. And really what looks good to the designer eye is you need a coat hanger, something to like hang gowns on so that they have a flow and a drape and a movement. I mean, I got caught chewing gum and they didn't like me on the runway.
So is the
I
gum
was
thing?
whistling, and Eileen called me and said, "Were you whistling on the runway?" And I said, "Well, I was getting rid of my gum, and I was just kind of depressed, and so I was whistling to cheer myself up." Because she said, "No, Rosalee, no. These are high fashion people. They do not want you from the country." And so they said, "Well, she has a pretty face," and so I ended up doing a lot of makeup ads and fashion that was just photography A lot of photography, a lot of fashion, but a lot of face.
Did you ever have a moment where you walked into the mall, went into, let's say, the makeup area? Was it ever a
Yeah.
surreal moment when you saw yourself published somewhere or a picture hanging or something like that?
I remember coming home and I had done a huge magazine spread. I think it was Brazilian Vogue or something. And I brought it home to my mom and dad, and I showed my dad, and he said, "Man, who's that?" And I said, "Well, Daddy, that's me." And he said, "No." I said, "Daddy, that's me with makeup on." He said, "Phew, doesn't look like you." So it was like, always had a very down to earth kind of, reality check.
Got some of that Bayou sensibility going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you transitioned or you made the move into acting, was
I don't
there
think you
like
can use that word anymore, Mark.
oh, got to be careful. Yeah, that's why I clarified. Yeah, and the thing that as an actor, you said you want to direct, but what was kind of getting your juices flowing when it came to acting? Did you was it film, TV? Was there a specific project where you're like,
Always
oh, I'm
film.
doing the thing now?
Always film. Always film. Television is, and I know this from my improv friends, television is like doing a play.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to do it every week, all day long. In fact, there was a female director from, I believe, South Padre, and she directed soap operas. And they wouldn't let me do soap operas because I would crack everybody up. And it was supposed to be, you're supposed to be serious when you say, "I'm in love with your son, Jeff. I know. I'm so sorry to disappoint you, but we won't be having a wedding ceremony tonight." That I can't say that straight. I can't. And so for me, they would put me in film because film is such a quiet, still art. As much as you can be in Mad Max, you also have to be able to sit in who you are. And that always pleased me a lot more. And there's my goofy side that shoots commercials where I can just, be in the moment and lick an ice cream cone and find it delicious. And I'm trying to write a book right now called Smell the Cookie, My Life in Advertising, because it's...
Oh my God. I remember doing I was very young. I think I was like 12, something like that. And they wanted somebody play
Did you act? Did you act? What?
I was in, okay, prepare yourself. The Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders movie, the sequel with John Davidson when I was like 8.
Yay!
I vividly remember going
cred.
Do you remember Texie Waterman? She was the one who had the studio where all the cheerleaders trained at. It was just a storefront. And I went there, and one of the cheerleaders had a birthday, and they had it was just in between shots, but they were there in the studio doing their thing. But they saw me. They thought I was a cute, adorable little kid. I guess I was. And they all said, "Oh, come have some birthday cake with us." So there's all these cheerleaders sitting in a circle. I'm their little pet.
Gosh.
And 8-year-old me didn't appreciate that nearly as much as 14-year-old me would have. But it was, and of course I had to do, I did something in Dallas with Larry Hagman. I remember that. And,
oh my gosh.
And I was in a Pepsi commercial. That was, I thought it was really cool because it was kind of an iconic commercial for the time because they had it was on a farm and they had a skywriter writing, "Will you marry me?" or something. And it's kind of an iconic Pepsi commercial for the day. And all I remember is the donuts were really good. And I was introduced to coffee at a very young age. So I was amped, So it was like craft service was like, that's the thing I loved.
That's why we all work, Mark. It's just for craft service. That's it.
Oh,
That's
some of it was it was so good. And I remember shooting, I was on a TV show. I was on one of my adult years. They were shooting an ABC miniseries. And the craft service was like, etouffee and pasta jambalaya. I'm like, that's way too heavy to, because you can't eat that and feel because I was like, okay, this is going to mess with my memorizing my lines, which I'm not terribly great at doing. So film for you, what was it kind of the first project where you went, this is ideal for me, this is awesome. What was that first film or project you worked on that was really memorable for you?
There's so many moments that you have that are so. Remember Lee Grant?
Oh, of course, yeah.
In a page boy. I was on a made-for-TV movie with Judd Hirsch, and he was playing a bad guy, and I was supposed to get on stage, on the witness stand, and because he and I had a regular date before he had done all these horrible things. And I remember I had a bad hair appointment for a girl that's an actor. That's a big thing. I had a bad hair appointment, and it was kind of orangey red and fried a little bit. And I thought, oh, great. But when I read it, I knew I could make something out of it. And it wasn't on the page so much as this character that had evolved while studying the lines. And I give this speech and interaction being on a witness stand. And I got a standing ovation.
Really?
On the sound stage. And Lee Grant came up and shook my hand and she said, "You're terrific." And I thought, oh man.
That's that feeling like, especially when you not necessarily, it's not idolized, but you appreciate somebody's in the zone. They're good at what they do and they acknowledge you.
So I never could take my eyes off her anyway. And then I got to work with Carol Burnett and Tom Selleck and Shirley MacLaine, and some of the people told me afterwards, they said, "You actually like working with stars better than you do. We're going to keep you for that." Because it's true. Because I adore them so much. And I don't fawn over them, but I just want to be at my best. It brings the best, brings the best out of you.
Well, I gotta know the Carol Burnett experience though, because that was like one of my fondest memories as a kid.
In fact, I have a note, write her a letter on my desk right now because I met somebody who actually knows her. I was in Hawaii with Tom Selleck doing his Hawaii 5-0. It was called.
Or was it Magnum PI?
No, Magnum PI.
Yeah.
And I did know she was the one who was going to be with us in the scene, and they announced it right before the scene, and I was just. And she walks up, and I had this scene, and it was a very difficult line or two with a lot of S's in it. And Tom kept hearing me say it wrong, and I couldn't hear that I was saying it wrong. And we kept going back, and this was not in the script. And he just kept correcting me, and I kept laughing. He said, "The trip." So I said it right. And so that was what I was doing with it. She was standing right here between us and said, "Is there a fire hose somewhere we could put these two out with?" They kept all of it. It was the best experience. It was the best.
Magnum PI for a kid of the 80s. That was like, that was Tom Selleck making short shorts like a thing. My kid's generation now is see him doing was reverse mortgage commercials, but back in the day, he was the guy. He was the mustache. Man. He was the mustache. He was the guy, and what a gracious host, and it was a terrific experience. I at that same time, the 80s and 90s is when I got, all these magnificent breaks, and ABC put me under a comedy contract because apparently I can't be serious on a runway. Anyway, so you were finding your people, you were finding your zone. I was finally able to talk. I say all the time, I was quiet for 12 years because your opinion did not matter on a set. And it was so lovely to be writing and performing stand-up where people want to hear what you have to say. But that experience really taught me. I learned a lot from all those guys in the 80s on how to write stuff. And once I began writing, that also gives you a voice, right? And I started submitting, and that's when it gives you insight into the process, most certainly.
Yeah, and the writers, at least when I was coming up, what the writers said went. That was, you respect the written word. You don't change anything. You don't anything. So when I started ad-libbing at the end of commercials, a commercial has been vetted by at least 100 people.
God,
by the time you ever see, that's corporate, right? And for them to keep an ad-lib or two that I offer them, and they kept it and aired it, I knew that I was in my zone. I knew that I was finding my comedic voice if I could tag their scripts, and they were keeping it. That
is something, because in coaching voiceover for many, many years, I tell my students, like when I work with actors, especially out of LA, they start improvising something like, no. you understand how many hands have touched
Oh.
this, and you've got basically the Bible in front of you, and it ain't going to change. You gotta find your space between the lines, maybe.
I
But
was
as far
wondering
as
about your voice, Mark, because you have such a marvelous voice. I was wondering if you were a voiceover king.
oh, you're very kind. Yeah, in fact, it's funny down here. I do a lot of stuff. A lot of what I do is the voice of TV stations around the country, and one of them,
Oh, nice.
it's so funny. One of them down here, I'm the voice of the ABC station, and it cracks me up because my kids are so unimpressed by what I do. It's so funny because one of my commercials will come on, and I'll mention, I was like, "Hey, who is that guy?" My dog recognizes my voice sometimes on TV, which is
Oh,
kind of
that's
fun.
so funny.
It's
My dog
confusing
used
for
to
him.
my dog used to react to my commercials on the television. That's true. I forgot about that.
It's a lot of fun, and it's allowed me to do a lot of other things because, to some degree, I like the anonymity of it. I came up in radio in Dallas, and
Ah.
but yeah, it's kind of like the anonymity. You can kind of go, nobody knows who you are, and then I got in acting, and they still didn't know who I was. So that's a thing. But so now you got
Well,
your
your
comedy
voice is
voice
amazing,
happening.
so.
Well, you're very kind. You're very kind. But I'm curious how you made the transition, because going and deciding to do stand up. I've interviewed, actually, the very first interview I did on my series with a fella, a good dude named Craig Shoemaker. I don't know if you know him.
Oh, yes.
He is just a good dude. I've known him from I think back in like '96 or something, and so I wanted to have a comedian on, and intermittently I will have some comedians on, and it's such an interesting, not just the work itself, but the lifestyle, because that's, if you decide you want to go on the road, that's a whole different life. So how did
Yeah,
you make
it
that
is.
transition and decision to do that?
Well, I got sick. Tarantino had taken me on as one of the only 2 female directors on his roster of young directors.
Really?
I was fully ready to transition into directing. I was very excited. I wrote and pitched. Guess what? Guess what kind of commercial, Mark? What would it be about?
Automotive?
Yes!
Okay.
I wrote a series of car commercials and
Okay.
sent it in blind to Tarantino's commercial production house. And they called me and said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Hi, I'm nobody. I've just been doing this 30 years, and I'd like to see if you guys like this." And I said, "We better take a meeting. Come in." They were so adorable to me. I came in with my cardboard pitch and a pitch book. And I put it in front of them and put the board up, and they went, "Pitch us." And I said, no, it's right there. And they went, "Oh." And they start turning the pages. And before they were done, they offered me a deal.
So
And
he had a commercial production
yes,
arm?
a band apart. And they said, "How did you pick us?" And I said, the name of your company starts with A, and I only had money for 3 books. And so I started with the A.
Did you know it was Tarantino's company before you submitted, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an actor, so I know who the production houses are.
True.
I've worked for them for years.
They brought you on as a director to direct commercials, and so so your goals are kind of gelling together. Your director
So now,
aspiration.
and Dan Lauria, you know who Dan is? He was the dad in
yeah.
Wonder Years. So Dan had always said to me, Ro, you're going to end up being a director. You're so bossy. And I thought, oh, that'll never happen. How could I? And then I started getting offers of movies and commercials to direct. And then I was in the editing bay one night, and I got the phone call from my doctor that it was an emergency. He needed to see me right away. And when I went in, they told me that I didn't have any time, and I had to get my affairs in order. And that was going to be it. And my Dallas girlfriend, Janice Tomlin, producer of 60 Minutes, 2020, Fame, all that. My best girlfriend in San Antonio, who I had grown up with in Rain, who was connected to a healer. And my other best girlfriend, who's a writer, pretty famous writer named Sandra Weintraub in LA. And the 3 of those women got together and said, "I don't think so." So they got on it. They found the latest, greatest, most innovative, crazy, new, hypothetical save your life treatments. And that's what I did. And
so you had ladies with chutzpah as your angels there. So
I have the most kick-ass friends. And so they weren't going to let me go. They had more torture for me in mind. They had more fun to be had. And my 2 boys moved home and stayed with me that year and never left my side. That's why I was saying, don't let them cook for you. The cancer won't kill you, Mark. Your children's cooking might. It's pretty rough. 2 boys. Anyway, they all took amazing care of me, and I survived. But then I was weak. What people don't talk about is after that much chemo, that much radiation, that much surgery, how weak you are. And I didn't.
Yeah.
I knew I wouldn't be able to direct because I'm sure you realize better than most people.
It takes stamina,
grueling.
To be a director. You
Grueling.
marry it. Yeah, you marry
Grueling.
that project for a long time before it shoots,
Yeah.
and then after,
Yeah.
and you basically are. It's like it's like a cat rodeo. It's like you're just kind of
It
trying to
is.
get it all together.
Yeah, it's your vision. Otherwise, people don't know where to go and what to do. It's your vision. You have a vision for any project, and that is all consuming. And I knew it would kill me if I tried to, do 18-hour days. So I thought, okay, well, now what? And some of the girls I had worked with in commercials also rallied around me and took me to their improv troupe to have fun, a night of fun. Mm-hmm. And I spent about a year with them. And
which was it one of the kind of
Andy is it Greenberg? It's Off the Wall.
Okay.
Group Off the Wall. So Andy runs that still, and after about a year, I said, I love you guys so much, and I hate this. I hate this so much. I don't like it. I do improv when I'm not supposed to. On a commercial, I'm not supposed to. I'm not used to having to perform like a little.
Would you say that improv for some people that already people that have it as a life like survival skill, it's kind of like you already kind of get it. It's just I think the classes maybe help you convert it to on camera ishness, but some people just already have that.
Yeah, they already have it, and they have to be. This is my theory. I think you can be dumb as a doorknob to be an actor. As an improvisational artist, you have to be immensely educated because you have to pull from all the points of life to have everyone be able to relate to what you're building, this wacky world.
You have to listen and react. So,
I was too busy writing because my natural thing is storytelling and writing. So I was always in control. So that was never going to work. But the last night I did it, my dear friend who's a producer in Los Angeles came to me and he said, you know why you're miserable, right? And I said, no. And he said, because you should be doing stand-up with me. And I thought, no, see, stand-up is for Dave Chappelle at 18 years old in the back of a club being a star before he was even born. This is not for some old lady crashing out after cancer. And he said, no. You're a storyteller. This is going to work.
Well, I mean, I know it's, to bring Bill Cosby up. I mean, for the era, I mean, Bill Cosby was, it's hard to bring him up now. I will say.
Let's just bring them all up. Louis C.K. Let's just go through all of the guys that are now canceled.
I will say one of my favorite quotes is from. I always express came from Bill Cosby, but it's still relevant. Is like he said, "I don't know the key to success, but I know the key to failure is trying to make everybody happy all the time." I was like, well, that tracks, but I remember how big he was. And then I remember being in junior high and then Eddie Murphy. And then
it's like, God, that's who I listened to growing up. Right. Eddie Murphy.
Do you remember back when HBO, when HBO used to have their specials and everybody like George Carlin was just like Carlin would be the most relevant comedian right now if he was.
I think so. And I miss him dearly. And there's a couple of other people that I miss. Phyllis Diller, and where is our favorite insult comedian? Where is Don Rickles? Don Rickles.
Oh, Don Rickles.
Where is Don?
I heard he was a sweetheart of a guy, but everybody he was one of those guys that if he lit into you, people wanted him to be annihilated by him. Yeah. But one of the ones it's like I love some of the comedians and the humor that was blue that I was too young to realize it was blues. Paul Lynde. Remember him on the what was it? The Hollywood Squares. Hollywood Squares?
Oh, Hollywood Squares, maybe.
There was a lot of blue humor, a lot of stuff that was, they understood
Layered.
satire. There was satire. It was cool. And
Yes. Yes. This is why robots can't do it.
See, you got an AI,
Sarcasm.
you have an AI-proof job now.
Yes. Sardonic, all that kind of stuff. They'll learn it.
Who was your, on your Mount Rushmore comedians, the ones that you were like,
Wanda Sykes and, oh my gosh, Sarah Silverman, still to me, if she can make my sons laugh.
She's a great storyteller. She's kind of dry.
She's also a master of left turns. And I'm trying to think of the name of, there's some British comedians I find very interesting right now. But of the Americans, golly, there's, do you know the Canadian Steph Tolev?
No, not yet. I don't think so. No.
She's just a cut above. She is the most raucous, raw. She'll take out anybody. I love to tell this story about Steph. She let me open for her in Florida, so she's going to be my honey boo boo for the rest of my life. There's nobody. Big comedians letting anybody fairly new get up. It's just such a gift, right? And she's the one who introduced me.
Well, that's
to
what
Orlando.
used to be is you would have a comedian who was on the ball who just would find someone that they're like, all right, you're with me. And that's, there was almost like a not an apprenticeship, but there was something like that.
And I don't think anybody understands how much love there is in this particular art form. Mm-hmm. For each other. And I don't know if it's because of the enormous nerve it takes to do it every night, but we are out there in the trenches trying to say things that provoke, excite, destroy, anything to connect with people. Because right now, especially, Mark, it's so important. It's
I think as they say, now more than ever. It's one of those deals where you have to acknowledge that right now that the forces that be, I think, are kind of pulling and on the frayed edges of society. And you got AI, and you got whole generations growing up staring at their phones, which I think Gen X might save us, or Gen Z. Sorry, Gen X. We're awesome, but Gen Z, because the Gen Z kids they're really down with the authenticity. They're getting more. They find that things that aren't on their screen to be more intriguing. I've read a couple of things recently.
That's nice to hear. Well, Steph Tolev did something that I've never seen on stage. We were watching, and Bill Burr did the same thing. And it's two of the things I can't even imagine being great enough to be able to get there. But these two people did the same thing. Steph went out, and there she starts playing with the audience, and she finds out that they happen to all be there on the good graces of their boss, who took them all out for this evening. But the boss had called her a man. Yeah, she's very aggressive. And he said, you look like a man. So the guy who was responsible for this whole group of people being in the audience was this guy who had insulted Steph. And she just pulled the stool up, put her leg up on it, and went, "You and me, babe." He got up and left. And she went, "Oh, you couldn't take it. Oh, what a little baby on that pussy." Blah, blah, blah. Right? So he leaves. She finishes playing with the audience. She's a great set. People are screaming. She leaves. The next comedian comes out. The guy comes back to his seat. Steph Tolev comes out from behind the curtains, pushes the curtains back, moves the comedian out of the way, and says, "Oh, he's back." And it starts again all over. Oh my God. And she tore into him again. I've never seen anybody do that. Bill Burr was at a giant arena. And I don't know, Toronto, I don't know where they were. Missouri, somewhere north of here. And comedian after comedian had a hard time. That audience was giving them nothing. No love, no applause.
Oh, I think I know this story.
You know the story? I watched the replay on YouTube. Let me tell you. Bill Burr's turn comes up. He comes out and goes, "What a piece of S you guys are! What a piece of... Who do you think you are? You lowlifes with jobs making beer on the weekends? You're gonna judge these..."
I remember watching him. Maybe it's an interview I heard where he was talking about he rolled out and there was a crowd he knew was just dead set on just not loving him. He's like, "Fuck y'all. All right, I'm going to go." He just tore into them and they seem to like that, you know?
They did. It finally got them to be gracious and really themselves. I don't know who had their arms crossed, but somebody had decided it was going to be a bad night and he broke them all out. That's real talent.
Bill Burr is fast. One of the things I love is that one of those guys had that natural ability to just size up the moment. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it. Because I'll always think about a comeback the day after or something like that. He's in the moment. But are you on your tour right now? Or are you what's your touring schedule looking
home. Like? I am blessedly home. Not going to go back on the road until July through September. So July, I'm going to do the mid-coast of California. I've never done all of the mid-cities. I'm really looking forward to that. A lot of them are in these gorgeous wineries, and people come from miles because they're separated. They're not in a big city. So that's going to be really fun. And then I'll do Texas and Louisiana, and then I have to end up in North Carolina in September for a comedy festival. Yeah.
I really appreciated what Mark Maron did for this medium. And I remember listening to him and his, I like hearing the stories about the road, and like the hotels. And then he would talk about the venues who would have their own condo or something like that. And he said they were always like, I'm scared. There's a whole world for comedians who tour.
Like, there's things on the walls. No, you don't want to stay there. It's had nothing but 72 male comedians before us. And so girls we go somewhere else.
Well, did you ever hear Tom Segura's bit that he did about Louisiana, about how he said, and then he would say, "A whole state got pissed off at me."
He went there and I heard about it. I didn't see the set, but all I know is when I went, they said, "Oh yeah, your friend Tom, he was here. We didn't like him." Well, there's a different kind of humor everywhere you go, right? Yeah. And you have no idea. Yeah, listen, you have worked your fingers to the bone until 2 a.m. in the clubs here in LA. But it is a very sophisticated audience. They've seen everything from movie stars and TV stars to singers try stand-up. They've seen the people at the height of their career on any given Wednesday night. It is the proving ground of the art form, just like New York is. And Chicago is, to me, as well.
I've got a soft spot in my heart for all the people that came through and out of Chicago. Yeah, that's
yes.
That's
and I don't know why. It's because we feel bad they have snow. I don't know, something.
Probably.
But I love them. They're just good. The New Yorkers come when I know I'm putting up a New Yorker on a show in Los Angeles. I know I'm going to get somebody who's been through the trenches and can handle anything that's going to get thrown at him. He's a professional. If he comes out here from New York, I can trust he's going to be great. Chicago, same thing. Most of them come out of improv and pizza. And so they are naturally good. Also, the Pope is from there, and his father was born in Louisiana. So it's all good with Chicago. But LA, if you're on the grind in LA, and like me, if you started in the worst place in the world to start is Los Angeles, because they cut you no quarter. This is where I started. You will be good, whether you want to be or not, or they're not going to put you up. So you have to work and work and work and grind and grind and grind. When you're on the road and you're bringing comedy, like back home to Rain, Louisiana, it was the most fun night. We had 250 people and in not armory, but like one of those posts,
like VFW kind of things.
Yes, exactly. And so, on the police station, they had put Rosalee Mayeux, adult comedy. What? I said, you guys, you do know, guys, that sounds like porn. It's supposed to be over 21, not adult. So, but you go to these places that don't always get the LA, New York, Chicago comedy stand-up performances, and they haven't heard your kind of comedy. They're very excited to hear something new and different. Even if you come out of it as a storyteller, it's got that LA spin on having to be concise. You can't take advantage of your audience here. You better be giving. It's a little bit different. I want to say one thing about the difference between acting and stand-up that I don't hear people talk about. Maybe they just haven't had the experiences I have, but acting can get hard because it is the most giving profession there is in the arts. You give and give and give and give. And if you are not performing for live audiences, you have no feedback. You're working with a camera. So
Right.
sometimes you go home a little empty. Whereas stand-up and plays, Dan, Laurie, and I got a standing ovation at the Carnet. It's like, it's just a different reward system. So if you're thinking about stand-up, you are amongst the people, and you better handle yourself, but still you get that live love. It's marvelous.
One of the things I love to do is what I call my 7 questions when I'm kind of wrapping up. It's a little fun, a little extra, get to know you. And I talk food at least once on every episode because, especially when I'm hungry. But coming from Louisiana, this might be a good one. But the first question I ask is, what is your favorite comfort food? If you're having an amazing day, it adds to it, or crap day, it kind of sets you right. What would that be for you?
Oh my gosh. There's just so much, I made a big old catfish the other night. I think Southern cooking, just whether it's shrimp and okra or, I think that's it. Cajun cooking, the stuff that I made growing up is once you start with onion and celery and green pepper, you can put anything in it, Mark. And I will
once
eat it.
Once you've got the Trinity down, yeah, absolutely.
Once you have the Trinity, anything you put in it is great.
Yeah, I remember Justin Wilson, the great cook. Him and Yan Can Cook on PBS. That's how I first started watching the cooking shows. But Justin Wilson also had this joke. He said that he had these little ducks that were following the mother, and then they saw, they saw like a tractor or something. Ducklings took off running. Mother's like, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, what is that thing?" "Well, it just says tractor. It's not going to do anything to you." And so the ducklings are kind of moving along, and then they see an alligator. The ducklings take off. Mother's like, "He's not going to mess with you. Just don't go near him. It's not an issue." And then they go and they keep on going. And like they see a man, and the mother takes off running. And the duckling's like, "What's wrong?" It's like, "That's a Cajun. He'll eat anything." So that's a joke I remember. And so I was kind of like, when I made my way to Louisiana, I was like, yeah, that's pretty true. And they'll make it taste good.
And they'll make it taste good.
Now, the next question, if you're going to sit down, talk story, a few hours, maybe a whole afternoon, you're going to have coffee with 3 people, living or not. Who would those 3 people be you would love to have at your table with you?
Oh, my mom, my dad, my grandpa. Those are the people because by the time I came along, my mom's dad, who lived with us, was sweet and nice. He had softened. But she said when she was growing up, he was mean as hell. So I want to hear all the stories of Mama's biggest sister who ran off with a cousin and got married. And then Mama's middle sister who could cook anybody under a table. She outcooked everybody. And then Mom, who was, the brainiac of the whole group. And that's why Grandpa came to live with us. He figured he was safe.
Yeah. When you get to that age, you're going, you know what? I would love to be able to ask this question about life, about being a parent or career, or just, it's kind of like you wish you had some of those folks back to just kind of bounce things off.
I want to know what they were doing when they were young.
Yes.
We don't know our parents at 16. I want to know the dirt. My dad must have gotten into something. I'm absolutely sure of it. I'm sure of it.
Well, I know our generation's kind of like, thank goodness we didn't have cell phones back when we were young because nothing was getting documented.
We would have been caught. Yeah, we would have gotten caught for all the stuff. We were toilet paper in houses, and we'd be in jail,
stuff.
Mark. Yeah.
Well, the next question, going back to when you were young, who was your first celebrity crush when you were young?
Troy Donahue.
Troy Donahue.
You're too young. You don't know who that is. Surfer Boys.
Okay.
Yeah, we would have Gidget. And all the surfer boys that liked her.
That era, I'm a big surf nerd who doesn't really surf, but in fact, I got a big poster here from the movie Riding Giants. It was autographed by Laird Hamilton, but they were talking about the Gidget turn and all the movies that cranked out post Gidget,
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
those stars. Yeah, some of those are
Gidget
just so
and
much fun
James
to
Bond.
watch.
I mean,
Oh
James
yeah,
Bond to me was, I thought that was it. I thought
yeah.
they was talking my kind of storytelling. I wanted to hear all about it. When I was a model in Europe, all I read was spy novels. I still love it.
I love James because you always was a journey. And I got to tell you, my favorite, I talked about this a couple episodes ago, is Daniel Craig. I got to say, I was a fan of all of them, but
You
Daniel
picked
Craig
him?
to me,
He's great.
it's the most real. It's not cartoonish. It's very,
No,
you'd
exactly.
imagine that you saw him as especially the last one, man. It was heartbreaking. It was
Tearjerker.
like,
Yeah.
now, the next question I got for you, let's say you're on an exotic island for a whole year, no streaming. You want to be there. It's beautiful. It's great, but you have no streaming. So you can only bring one CD or a box set if you want to listen to music, but only one. And the same thing for a movie. What's the DVD and what's the CD going to bring? You're going to bring for the whole year to this island?
Well, I get, Fats Domino and all the old New Orleans jazz men, and Ella Fitzgerald and Aretha Franklin. That's the kind of music that I grew up on that I don't think you can do without. They're like,
Mhm.
Billy Ray Vaughan. That's the essentials, rock and roll essentials. Is there a CD that has the rock and roll essentials?
Well, didn't they have those this is the 80s
The
or whatever
box
CD?
set.
So
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. That's
Okay.
it. That's it. That's what I
So,
want.
so what would the movie be for you?
Oh man, that is so hard. I think since I've seen all my old movies so many times, I've had the luxury of having a life of
Mhm.
movies. I would go with some new movies. I don't know if you saw Hamnet
Have not
this
yet.
year.
No.
That and the foreign Oscar nominee, which was called The Agent or The Secret Agent, which was a misnomer. That's not what the movie is about at all. Those are the two most beautiful movies I've seen in decades.
Yeah,
Hamnet
it's
is,
wonderful when you can see a movie and it actually I was just talking with Rob Corddry not too long ago, and I was talking about a few movies he was in. He's like, man, you like the dark horses. I was like, I like those independent ones where you're seeing something. Like there was one we talked about that was called The Way, Way Back. Something I could watch with my kids and they enjoyed it as a kid. But as an adult, watch Steve Carell being a jerk, which you don't normally see, But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
sometimes some movies just land, and some of the good. I'm wanting a return to independent stuff and that kind of a thing.
There's a feeling that you get in your body when you know a movie is being super truthful.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I can feel my feet with no shoes on in the dirt. That feeling of nakedness when a director, P.T. Anderson does it, and yet he does it highly stylistically, like Budapest.
Yeah.
Highly style, and I can't stop watching that. Budapest just, is the I don't want to give it a name. I hate when people claim to understand my stuff. I think there's so much more to be gotten from leaving some questions unanswered by the art. Just leave it to the art. I didn't finish the end of my special with a button. I ended it with a joke, but that story, Coyote Nights, that won the Columbine Award, that is at the end of Model Mom. I tell that story. That story ended with the two sentences, what now? What now? And that's how I like movies. Leave something to the imagination. Leave
because life doesn't have bookends. It's a constant
No.
rolling wave. Yeah, I
No.
kind of like that. Now, if we're to say from the time you get up to the time you go to bed, what would you say are the ingredients, the component parts where you said, oh, that was a perfect day? What would those component parts be for you?
Well, if I don't do postings, then my PR lady comes to my house and knocks on my door. So I have to do that every day. And then once that, I feel like she's my taskmaster, my PR, my promotions people really just keep drumming into me you have a special, people don't know who you are, which thanks to you, Mark, I'll have some people in your area that
We like making noise for you. Yeah,
I
actually, absolutely.
love it. I'm so grateful. So if I don't do my posts, I'm not happy. The next thing I have to do is get into a bathtub and write new jokes. That's where it always occurs to me, is the bathtub work. As an actor, I did it, called it my shower work, where I would memorize my lines. But writing I can do in the tub. And that's usually where I come up with a few new good premises that the rest of the day have to work through my brain. And the rest of the day, if it's a perfect day, then I'm eating outside with iced coffee and digging in the dirt for something that's growing where it's not supposed to be growing in the yard. That's it.
It sort of ties in eating outside. I remember Anthony Bourdain always used to say that food tastes better with sand between your toes.
Yes,
you know?
It does. And then if you end up in the night and you're sitting there at 7:00 and you go like, I really should go out and see some comedy tonight if you don't have a show of your own, and I can make myself put on shoes and get in the car, I stay out until 2 a.m. in the back of the Comedy Store or the Improv or the Laugh Factory, just watching the art form. And I come home and I put the top down on my ancient car and roll up the canyons. I don't know. Life doesn't get better than that.
We find our peace and our joy, and you just embrace it. When I got a little bit older, I started realizing I don't really care if anybody understands my thing. This is zen for me. I love that. Now, now, if you weren't doing this, if somebody said to you, if that was not available, what would the other option be for you? What would the other vocation be that you're like, that would bring me joy? What do you think that would be?
Well, when I'm physically unable to do things, and that has happened to me a few times in my life, is I paint. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure if I was in a cave and the apocalypse had come, I would find some kind of acorn to write on a rock and draw something on the rock. And I'm for sure. I'm for sure about that. I remember taking one of my mom's discarded kitchen chairs and I wrapped it in the tendrils of a big flowering plant. And I wrote a psalm on the back of the chair and I put it just off the driveway in the median. And she walked, is that my chair? And I said, yeah, Mama, it's been in the garage for 5 years. Can I use it? She said, what is that? I said, Mom, it's art. And she went, And she turned around and walked in the house. So I don't think I've changed.
Well, I think kids, once we see something sit in the garage for a long time, it becomes our domain. I think all kids think like that.
It's fair.
The last question I got for you is, if you had that DeLorean and you can go back when you were 16 years old and you got a few minutes with yourself to either take that moment and somehow make it a little bit better, or get onto a different trajectory, what would that piece of advice be from you to 16-year-old you be?
I don't know, but I was always super tall and lanky and just felt like I was Bigfoot, ugly duckling kind of person. And I was taught so much of the time that who you are is more important than what you look like, that I didn't have any self-confidence. I didn't know what other people saw when they looked at me. That didn't seem to impress anybody at all. And I had no confidence. And, Cajun people, French people are very practical by necessity. There's a lot of poverty down there. So people don't easily have a lot of aspirations. And I think I would tell that 16-year-old girl, run as fast as you can toward the fun stuff. Go believe in yourself. Go do everything. Run for president. Do anything you want. Doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You have permission to be yourself. Nobody's going to stop you but you. Go, girl. Go.
And isn't it wild when you get older, you start realizing how little people actually think about you compared to what you think that people,
Nobody cares.
I think even now more than ever, they're in their own heads, so it's like, nobody's even, or they quickly forget. No, that's wonderful. I hear that shadings of that from different folks, kind of the just go for it. It's one of those things now that I try to impress upon my kids. It's like, I don't care what your business card says, just it should bring you joy,
Yes.
And
Yeah.
hopefully keep a roof over your head. But that's the
Yes.
thing. I'm jazzed to see your the full show, Model Mom. Now that's kind of everywhere now. It's on. I think I saw it was on Apple Plus, and
Yeah, it's on
it's
Apple, it's on Spotify as an album, it's on Sirius XM, it's on Google TV and YouTube TV and a bunch of stuff in Europe because I really wanted to get it to France. I want to see if that they get those model years like I did.
I appreciate you taking time out. I appreciate it greatly, and I'm hoping we have a chance to catch up down the line sometime.
Thank you so much, Mark. I want to come back to Padre and see you guys in person. I would love that.
Well, there you go, Rosalee Mayeux. Fun story. Took us on a little journey. Went to a lot of places, and actor, comedian, former model. Just kind of a big, interesting life arc. Don't forget Model Mom, name of her special. You can find it. It's streaming all over the place. I think like Apple, YouTube. Just do a search. You'll find it. Okay, so real quick, don't forget to go to storyandcraftpod.com. That's where you can find out everything about the show. And remember to follow and like Story and Craft on whatever podcast app you use. It is greatly appreciated. Okay, so I'm going to get on out of here. Time to grab a bite to eat. And I want you to have an absolutely wonderful weekend. Because it is Friday when we're recording, and I wanted to thank you, as I always do, for making what I got going on here part of whatever you've got going on. It is appreciated, and I look forward to catching you next time, right here on Story and Craft.
That's it for this episode of Story and Craft. Join Mark next week for more conversation right here on Story and Craft. Story and Craft is a presentation of Mark Preston Productions, LLC. Executive producer is Mark Preston. Associate producer is Zachary Holden. Please rate and review Story and Craft on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. You can subscribe to show updates and stay in the know. Just head to storyandcraftpod.com and sign up for the newsletter. I'm Emma Dillon. See you next time, and remember, keep telling your story.
Come on.